Good afternoon. I am doing a video support for my classroom observation that I did. I already finished the paper part of it, and I'm not quite sure if I set it up how you wanted it, as in I didn't really separate my reflection versus what I saw. I integrated both together. So I talked about all the questions that you're asking and then my reflection like right after instead of at the very end. I'm also hoping that this will clarify better for that reason. And I actually observed 2 classrooms I was there for almost 4 hours. I went to WSD, and the teacher that I was observing, they do like blocks and periods, and so 90 minutes, and that teacher went out and asked other teachers for me because they were wanting me to grasp the opportunity to observe all the different classrooms there at WSD. And so the first classroom I observed was a high school math class, a more advanced math class. And then the second was a middle school ASL class. And very, very interesting. I enjoyed both observations. The first one was in the math classroom, and all these classrooms are pretty small at WSD unless it's like the life skill classroom or maybe I didn't go to the elementary, so maybe it's bigger over there, but they were pretty small, and that's fine because the student count was really low in each class. The first class had only 5 students and the other class had 6. Both the classrooms were set up the same. You walk in, you can see the teacher's desk, the smart board. There's half the walls like big floor-to-ceiling windows for that natural light, cabinets, a sink, and then the students are in like a U or a half circle, and they got a free roam as in like where to sit themselves. They could decide, and both classrooms were set up that way. The first classroom had a lot more visuals in comparison to the second classroom, but I still don't think that the first classroom had a lot of visuals. How we've discussed visuals in a classroom and the colors and the brightness, and from the other classes we're taking what the environment you want to, what the feeling of the environment you want to have. Not too overwhelming, but not too like bare. So finding that happy medium. That math class, there was a lot of math resource like posters. So like a multiplication table, fractions, rule of thumb on certain problems that they might have to do, equations, definitely a few of those. There's also like a Deaf Pride posters all over the classroom too, and their mission statement that they have. That teacher was a hearing TOD who's been teaching for 9 years now. That classroom was definitely more sandwiching in the sense of how I picture sandwiching. ASL, English, ASL. And I'm not going to say that's because she's hearing, but because of her students' access, they have more access to sound in comparison to the other class. I also noticed that and put that down. The student need in that class, she would sign, voice support, sign, and then do it again. And I noticed when the students, would get it or wouldn't get it, but that teacher did a really good job at going one-on-one around the classroom in that pause of time that she gave her students to problem solve for themselves. So she'd point to the smart board, explain, highlight like English words they didn't know, explain that in sign, what it means, ask if somebody knew before she just went on and explained, gave them time for them to process, think, and produce. And in that production, they have their own iPads and they could work on those. And for the first couple of problems, that's what she did. And then this, like towards the end, the second or third last problems, she had the students come up one-on-one or 2 together and work together to kind of and solve the problem. And then would have them explain what they did. Step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, so on and so forth. And why. They did a total, I want to say I put down 7 or 6 different problems, but it was problem after problem after problem. The transition was just smooth. I really noticed that the students respected their teacher, knew the expectations, knew the behavior expectations, not a lot of behavior popped up. There was one student had headphones in, but I do know that could be documented in IEPs that help students, focus better. So it wasn't a distraction. If there was side chat, the teacher would just shh or wait for the eye contact, literally just wait. Very good rapport with her students, and that respect is there, and that class ran smooth. One question I did ask about setting up the classroom is, where is that line between too much and too little? And the teachers did sit down after the observation and kind of explain a little bit back up. Like, for example, about too many pictures. How many is too many? Do you reduce it? Do you not have enough? Things like that. The other classroom, like I said, was set up the same, but with less visuals. It was more, the smartboard was the teacher's use of visuals. And on that smartboard and through these different activities, there was many different visuals. Pictures, English sentences that connected to the pictures, videos from other kids, videos of the teacher. Great, fabulous. And that class was an ASL class, and it, as a hearing person, when you're learning a second language, you're taking ASL, you're really studying those tendencies and isms, and it just becomes what you know with the language. Where in this, or my perspective, this situation was these students, their natural language, or the language that they use the most there at WSD, is ASL, and they're not recognizing or making those connections on the appropriate use of classifiers, or how to set up a sentence in ASL, or that sometimes the sign doesn't always match the English word, things like that. There was many fun activities that teacher did, and I put them in my paper. I could go on and on about them, but it was a great ASL English literacy exposure and practice in that class. And they did review, 2 videos they watched, 3 different scenarios on, you watch and then you kind of find the mistakes and then you say the right one. And they did 3 different activities for the other part of the class, which was a 3 different, the classifier activity, hand shape, and letters, and they did 3 for each. So that was great practice, exposure, and then they were expected to do just 4. Out of that whole class, you're practicing, she's popcorning, questioning, give me examples, and so it's really student involved, student led, because she's asking the right questions. And so the homework really was simple, clear, just like it says in the book, to have clear expectations and clear rubrics. This homework was very clear. A few students asked, and she said, don't worry, I'll email it to you, so then they could look back or have it as a resource for them at home or in the dorms or whatever. Overall, I think the only negative, if I want to use that word even, is that there wasn't enough visuals and it wasn't as warming as I was expecting it to be. Now, I know the building is really old, the classrooms are really small, but I love the setup where this, where the smart board is, how the desks are like this for great eye contact, that the door is always open, so if other staff walking by can chat real fast. And the visuals, I love it. And I know that's really emphasized for deaf and hard of hearing, but even just in general, visuals help even me learn. So I like that. The negative would just be that there wasn't enough in my eyes, but that's always something, a teacher could reflect. Maybe that teacher knows her students or his students well enough that those visuals aren't always needed. Maybe the start of the year they had many, and then throughout the year they reduced the amount. But overall, my observation, I had a great time. I wish I could have observed for the next like week. It was great.